welcome to Two Words Wolves Pod. I'm Ryan Eichten. With me today is Leo San. Leo, how you doing?
We're back, baby. We're back like we never left. I am happy to be here. It has been a whirlwind of a week for me, but goddamn has it been a successful one because right before I was about to head out to the game in LA there, car decided to stop working. And I'm like, great, perfect. Yeah. And so there then came that critical period right there where I had to decide, am I going to this game or not after just looking forward to this for, the entire week. And, thankfully my wife swooped in and was like, you know what, man, take my car. It's engine lights on. We got some tire issues, but you should be able to make it. So I got there luckily. But it was cool to get there. And I will say for me, I've been writing at Canis Hoopus now for about 5 years. And I've written under the management of Kyle Tighe and Jack Borman. And I've talked to them a lot. I've developed a great relationship with them, but I finally got to meet them for the first time. So it was really cool. They're a lot taller than I expected. So me as a, mid 5 foot so guy, it was cool to see them and feel like I'm amongst giants over there fitting for a basketball game. But it was really great. I think the vibes in LA were really cool in a sense that obviously the city rallies only around playoffs because they don't care about their team in the regular season. But the arena was packed. But even before that, I would say the first thing I noticed, there was almost as much Minnesota media there than there were LA media there. Now, I know there's obviously more LA media than Minnesota in general, but we had guys like, Jack Borman, like I said, he's with Locked On. We had Kyle Tighe there, and him and Dane were there representing the Dane Moore podcast. And then obviously we had, Jace and Chris and John K. Like the Athletic, everyone was there. Star Tribute, everyone was there, and even Two Words Wolves Pod, Canis Hoopus, we were in the house as well too. And so it just felt, we had Clutch Points Minnesota who was there as well too. So it was just great. It felt like a real Avengers kind of moment of all of us coming together finally. At least for me, being under the united roof of an enemy there to cover the team. And that was just really, really fun to see. The players looked like they were really relaxed. Obviously, they had gotten in. They've been practicing at UCLA over there. Maybe Jalen Clark had some connections for them over there to get in. And so, they've been in town. They looked relaxed. They looked ready. And we saw that on the court. And once the game started as well, too, again, the arena got packed really early. It was a weekend game, prime time, national TV. Of course, everyone was there. I saw a couple interesting jerseys out there. I saw Nickeil Alexander-Walker jersey out there, which is really great to see. I saw a handful of Naz Reids. Of course, you got a lot of Anthony Edwards. I saw a Kevin Love jersey. Of course, Kevin Love played at UCLA as well, too. But it was just really great. Yeah, overall, I would say I was happy to see Minnesota kind of well represented there in general. And, hopefully, or luckily, the Wolves did not let them down. So it was great. It was a great experience.
Yeah, you talk about the Minnesota media, it's the Wolves media. I put our group up there with anyone I know, just kind of like you have, kind of covering the team, getting to know some other beat writers or some like away team groups. It's just sometimes there's a odd man out, people don't get along, or some people cover the team poorly, and that is not the case with many of the Minnesota media. I know, getting to know them, and this is my first like full season covering the team. Yeah, I'm sure it was a lot of fun out there for game one, and I'm excited to take your seat for game two, and then obviously have it come back home for 3 and 4. And it was an exciting game one win. One of my first thought as well, this guarantees that game 3 is going to be a bonkers atmosphere back at Target Center. But the Wolves got game 2. It does feel like there's some similar vibes to the beginning of that Denver series. Julius Randle and his wife had their daughter. I'm not sure if I would guess it was yesterday. I was kind of mentally following that in my head. Like, I know Julius and his wife are due to have a baby. Haven't seen an announcement. Are we going to have is one of our big guys going to miss game 2 of a playoff series? So, but yeah, good to see them have a happy and healthy baby. Look like mom and baby are happy. So, yeah, it sounded like Julius was at practice today, so we got all hands on deck. Yeah. All hands on deck for game 2. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. And we'll kind of just hop right into the game 1 analysis. Leo, you're Apex Alpha from game 1.
2 words, Naz Reid. 2 words, Wolves Pod, baby. Yeah, Naz Reid. I mean, I can't think of anyone else more fitting to be Apex Alpha of the week for us. For myself, I mean, I don't even want to spoil the moment by saying more than 2 words, but every time that Naz was going off, he was hitting a 3. He was blocking LeBron James. I mean, you could just hear the groan of the crowd every time he shot a wide open three, which was very often. And they were just like, "Oh man, like, are you serious? Are you serious? He's open. Is he making everything?" And you can just feel them die inside just a little bit more with every shot. And I want to say this: he was verbally jousting with like the LA bench while he was there. He was laughing while he was playing out there, and I do feel like this is something I've noticed throughout the year about that. I firmly believe when Nas Reed is playing loose, that's when he's at his best. Um, when he's just playing carefree, he's just hooping, right? He's hooping. He's not overthinking it. He's not getting caught up in like the, oh, well, this guy's getting in my head. The ref's not giving me calls or whatever. Like he's damn near impossible when he's out there. He's just playing loose and playing free. He was giving them buckets inside, outside. I mean, he was at that perfect second quarter. I think he went 4 for 4 from three in that second quarter. It was just a freaking clinic put on by Nas Reed. And so it's funny because, I mean, his old friend, Jared Vanderbilt, was trying to literally take him out of the game. And that was the only way that they really got to stop Nas was by elbowing him in the left eye. And his left eye was pretty red and swollen a little bit after the game at the press conference, you could tell. But he said that he was fine. He shook it off. And it's funny, I did see this a lot from even some of the LA media when I was riding in the elevator with them down to the press room. I was kind of being quiet. I think most people didn't know who I was. But there were a couple people wearing, press badges with, LA shirts on. And they were saying that, man, like, Nas Reed only plays well against the Lakers. Like, that's the only time he ever gets up is against the Lakers. I'm like, okay, clearly you have not watched the Wolves very much because if they think that Nas Reed only goes off against the Lakers, I mean, just even on this season alone, Nas Reed on the season is averaging exactly 10.0 points per game. That's tied for the fourth least that he scores against any team this year. So for that whole narrative of Nas only plays well against the Lakers, like, nah, just suck it. Like hold the L. Nas Reed went off, and like, yes, he has had some big games before, but it's not just a special LA thing. So yeah, Nas Reed, 2 words. That's my apex output.
Yeah, Nas was just fantastic in that game, giving them everything they need. Just so clear. Nas is a perfect example of this, and so is Dante and Akil. Like, the Wolves just are so much deeper than this Laker team. Obviously, I think this game will kind of stand out as like an outlier for them in terms of poor quality of play from their guys, pretty much top to bottom, other than Luka. I would say they'd expect everyone else to play better than they did, so it'll likely turn around. But like, the Wolves 1 through 8 are so, I mean, let's call it 2 through 8. Even, I mean, that's even taking Anthony Edwards out of the picture for the Wolves. The Wolves just have an advantage, like 2 through 8. And in this game, I thought Ant, despite only scoring 22 points, like, was not that far away from Luka, given that they held Luka to 1 assist, and that's just like a gigantic number. So to have Nas perform like that, I mean, compare him to like who the Wolves, like Dorian Finney-Smith is probably the best comp on the Laker roster in terms of pecking order, and DFS scored 3 points, only one of 3, missed both 2-pointers. Like, meanwhile, Nas is just lighting it up. And that's going to be a big thing for this series if the Lakers are able to make an adjustment. Because, like, I guess we'll save it for later, but I'm kind of struggling to see where like the roster adjustment is for them. Obviously, one of their adjustments is just play better. And I think, at least to a certain extent, they will likely do that. The Wolves just have, like, if the Lakers punch back, the Wolves have roster adjustments they can make. They can go bigger, they can go smaller. They could play with Rudy without, like, and Nas is, like, just such a big part of that. Really impressive stuff.
I mean, think about how much Nas is struggling, especially from perimeter, like to end the season, that there were concerns about, like, oh, well, like, if he's not going to shake out of this funk, then, I mean, what's going to happen to the Wolves? I mean, what a game to come out and, like, just absolutely break out of his shell again. Again, that's just so huge for the Wolves because it allows them. Nas is just such a flexible player that he's not a guy where he's not just a stretch big. I think people oftentimes who don't watch enough Timberwolves games, like some of those guys I was in the elevator with, just assume that, oh, Nas is just like a stretch big. It's like he's so much more than that. I mean, he hit 6 threes, but I mean, he was also scoring inside on mismatches, and again, he can move his feet on defense. When he's really engaged in there. I mean, obviously he's not the perfect player. He can rebound a little better. He can knock some free throws down more consistently. But overall, yeah, I just love seeing Nas Reed out there, just really killing it. And every time it's just, it always begs that question. I think when we see a big game from Nas Reed, it's like, okay, well, what's going to happen this summer? That's what it always kind of comes back to. Like, okay, well, how much is he going to get paid? So, on the flip side, yeah, he's playing great, but it's like, is this going to up the amount of money he's going to earn? But at the end of the day, is that really going to matter? Because it feels like the Wolves are very likely trending towards matching. I know that there was a report being floated out there as well too, is that the Wolves are planning on bringing Nasri back, and and Julius Randle too. So we'll see if that stays true. But yeah, who is your Apex Alpha of the week though, Ryan?
I'm going to go pretty straightforward. Leading scorer on the night, Jaden McDaniels. I said this on the quick reaction pod Andrew and I did after the game. It's just very clear like Jaden is like the playoffs are where he's going to excel, and he's probably the rest of his career, the regular season's always going to be like an up and down thing for him, because last year he dominated the playoffs, and one game into this series he's looked fantastic. 11 of 13 from the field. Obviously him hitting all three of his threes isn't necessarily something that you'd expect to happen again. You'd probably expect one of those threes to go down. But even so, like, just I thought he made a couple big buckets, like when the Lakers were kind of making a run. Jaden was one of the people to get in there, and he had a great quote after the game. I don't have it in front of me, but like he said something like, "When Jackson Hayes is out, I'm the tallest guy in the court." And so, and I thought 4 offensive rebounds for Jaden, 9 total. Like, and he's been doing this consistently for a month or two now, but like it wasn't that long ago where like Jaden was like putting up Jaren Jackson Jr. rebound lines for playing 40 minutes and grabbing 1 rebound. So add that to 2 assists, a steal, team high plus 27 plus minus. Jaden was just like and then obviously guarded Luka. Luka scored 37 points, but I would probably put the 1 assist, at least give that partial credit to Jaden there too. And they're just gonna. I think Jaden's play during this regular season has been fairly up and down. The point of attack defense hasn't been there. It's gonna cost him an all defensive spot, that one that he had last year, and he doesn't seem like he's gonna get that again this year. And then obviously the offensive game, there are points during the regular season where like Jaden just looks like, oh, we gave him too much money. He's just like a all defense kind of little offense type of guy. And the recent stretch from him, really since like Randall was out, and then as Randall's come back, he's carried it through. It's just been impressive for Jaden. And like you just think about, like you mentioned the Naz Reid stuff. I expect them to bring back Naz Reid. Obviously things can change, but if they're trying to save money, I just kind of feel like they'll end up doing it elsewhere on the roster. But like the Wolves' the Wolves' 3 best players in that game were Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, and Naz Reid. And that's the core of their team. There's other guys that I don't think anyone played bad, so it's not to like single anyone out, but like that game was not just a good sign for the series, and certainly going up 1-0 is the goal, but good sign really for the future of the Wolves too.
Yeah, I love that point that you brought up there at the end, because I put that in the recap as well too, or in the lead for my recap, is that is the true core of the Timberwolves. As much as you want to say, yeah, Rudy's brought a lot. I mean, all credit to him, and Mike's been great for the culture, and credit to him, and Dante's been really great this year. But the real core of the team is those 3 guys you mentioned. It's Anthony Edwards, it's Jaden McDaniels, it's Naz Reid. And when you really see them at their best, I mean, these are 3 two-way. I mean, at least, yeah, and Jaden can be, two-way monsters. And Naz, I mean, when he's engaged on defense, and we saw it today, I mean, he had a really great single play that we can highlight out. These are guys that play both ends of the court. These are all 3 of them are guys that play both sides of the court. All 3 of these guys are people who can shoot the ball. These are 3 guys that can handle the ball. These are 3 guys that can take it to the rim. I mean, that dynamic trio right there is just, I think that's what has Wolves fans salivating at like the future here. It's like, hey, if you have these guys and they're still they're not even in their prime. They're not even close to their prime yet. So it's like, they're all in their early 20s, and they have plenty of time to continue to grow into that role. So if you keep the 3 of them together, I mean, it's gonna be great. Like you said, it's gonna be more than just this Wolves series or this playoff run. It's gonna be many, many years to come.
Yep, exactly. And we'll hope that they kind of carry it through. I do kind of have this feeling that, well, those guys won't like regress. I think to win this series, they're going to need like games from everyone. They're going to need like a dominant Rudy game. They're going to need Randall to kind of have a better game here or there. Dante flamethrower game. There'll probably be a room for an Akil game. Like, I do think maybe not everyone to have like a quote unquote Naz Reid game. They're going to need
out Brandon.
Exactly. They're going to need at least some of these guys to continue to have that type of game to win the series. Yeah, let's move on to Prey of the Week. To me, the Wolves, the Prey of the Week, and for me, or at least the Prey of the this game one was Jackson Hayes. The Lakers went away from him, and I think we kind of all expected it. The Lakers went away from him very quickly. He played 8 minutes. Most of those were right at the start of the game. Only scored 1 point, splitting a pair of free throws. Like, he did grab 2 offensive rebounds, and that was kind of a big thing that I was worried about at the start of that game that looked so discombobulated was Rudy gave up a couple Jackson Hayes rebounds, and then along with fouling Luka a couple times. The start of the game did not go well for the Wolves. They were down 8, I believe, at one point early in that first quarter. But from there, the Lakers immediately ejected on Jackson Hayes. I'm curious if they start him again or if they immediately go to a different lineup, whether it's starting, you'd imagine it'd be Dorian Finney-Smith or Jared Vanderbilt starting in that spot. I just think, I've said this the whole time, any minutes Jackson Hayes plays is just gift to the Wolves. It makes playing Rudy so much easier, makes sticking him in the paint so much easier. And he doesn't provide like the same defensive whatever that Jared Vanderbilt does. I say that because, like you mentioned, he elbowed Nas in the face. I just don't. I've been confused. I mean, they've been winning ball games, but like I've been confused why Jackson Hayes has been their starting center this whole time. Ultimately, when the Mark Williams trade fell through for them by their own doing, but when that fell through for them, that kind of left them without a quality center. And so I'm curious where they go from here in terms of like their main lineup. Their main lineup will be what it was the other night with DFS kind of playing the majority of the minutes. But if they are looking for like a lineup switch, is it Jared Vanderbilt that they throw in there? I don't know. But yeah, Prey of the Week, the Wolves just even quicker than Memphis pulled Steven Adams 3 years ago. JJ Redick ejected on the Jackson Hayes minutes extremely early.
Yeah, this guy went out there in 8 minutes and got a little bit of cardio in, basically running up and down the court, not really doing anything. And it really pleases me to see Ryan pick Jackson Hayes as your Prey of the Week because, I mean, this is a dude that there's a reason why people don't like Jackson Hayes, the same reason why people don't like Kevin Porter Jr. and Miles Bridges. So, like, I am, like, happy to see him on the side of it. So, but yeah, I mean, like, say you replace him in the starting lineup with Dorian Finney-Smith. I mean, look at who's coming off the bench for the Lakers. Now you have Jackson Hayes, you have Gabe Vincent, you have Jared Vanderbilt. And then what's after that? I mean, you have your Jordan Goodwins, you have your Dalton Connects, old friend Shake Milton come off the bench, or what about Alex Len, Christian Coloco? I mean, like, they don't have any depth at all. And I think that's something that we as Wolves fans, I mean, we knew that was going to be one of our strengths, but I think we really saw it on display in that game. And so, yeah, I think, there is room for him to maybe play some more minutes or something. I mean, giving Luka that vertical threat. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But yeah, he absolutely was, a Prey of the Week. And again, I love seeing him just not being able to play any basketball for sure.
Yeah, it's just very clear. Like the Wolves just have. I've said this a couple times now. This version of this, like this might be like the worst Luka-led Lakers team there is. Certainly next year's team, like there's just gaping roster holes in the sense they don't have like a wing defender type. I mean, LeBron obviously can be that, but they don't want to for a whole series do that with him. And even like a wing, kind of more of a guard, like basically someone to guard Ant. That is probably not exactly what they want for LeBron. And then they just don't have any center. It's not that like their best lineup is obviously playing small in either way, but like if they just, I mean, yeah, Mark Williams would be great. And I think to maximize Luka, you're going to want that. And I think this offseason, they're going to find that very easily. They're going to sign some sort of mid-level center. My theory is that they'll try to trade for Derek Lively. With the pick that would have gone out, just basically like the same package that would have gone for Mark Williams. So that'd be an interesting, but I mean, the Lakers are vulnerable. The series is far from over. I think we would both say that. But they're vulnerable in these roster holes. At least for one game, the Wolves attacked them.
Yeah, I mean, with Nico Harrison still running the Mavs, anything is possible. They might trade Bronny James for Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively, and just throw an 80 in there anyways, right? But no, yeah, I mean, you mentioned LeBron earlier, so my Prey of the Week is the king himself, LeBron James. He's a notoriously slow starter in game one, so I'm not going to write him off as like, oh, he's cooked. But him going 0 for 2, scoring 0 points with 0 rebounds, 0 assists in about 8 minutes in the first quarter, that's unlike him. especially even what we've seen from LeBron. Like, yeah, he's not at his prime, obviously, anymore, but he's still extremely, extremely productive out there. And he just was invisible in that first quarter. It was really weird to see that. It seemed unusual to see that. I think what was even more unusual was later on in the game when he was getting his legs under him. I mean, he's got stuff going to the rim on back-to-back possessions. So first was, that play I mentioned, Nasri blocking him at the rim, go the other way. Well, Wolves hit a three, and then the very next play, LeBron. I mean, you kind of see him get a little bit frustrated. He was like, "No, like I need to score. I need to inject myself into this game." And he goes to the rim again. And this time, Rudy just smacks it out of the air as well too. And so, I think you kind of see that like, oh man, like LeBron, he's going to really have to turn it up. And I fully believe he will. Like, I don't think this is the last we heard of him. This is probably going to be his worst game of the entire series that we saw in game one. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just kind of rare to see that, a player of LeBron James's caliber who just seemingly has always an extra gear he hits in the playoffs just be so invisible and just like not really conducive to winning basketball in this first game. So, he'll be back. I think you also mentioned earlier about, the first quarter when LeBron went over. I mean, I think people talk about, oh, well, the Lakers didn't get anything out of like Rui Hachimura or anything like that. Yeah, Rui ended up 3 for 9 from the game on the game from the field. 9 points. All 9 of those points came in that first quarter. We hit 3 threes in a row. He started the game 3 for 3. And that is not something you expect Rui Hachimura to do either. As you saw, he ended up missing his next, 6 shots and next 4 3-pointers. So, yeah, it is something where they have a lot of questions. I think they will answer some of them, as we'll talk about in our next sections, and how or foul that there's going to be a lot of adjustments that the Wolves can still make as well too.
Yeah, it's kind of the second time. If you remember earlier, I think it was at Target Center, LeBron played as bad as I've seen LeBron play. Like, he almost like ended his double-digit scoring streak. It was that brutal at Target Center. And not quite that bad, but he just had very little impact in the game. I'm sure you don't want to doubt him, just given he's possibly the greatest player ever. Like, I feel like if we go, is this starting to be the end of his playoff, like being a top tier NBA player? Like, I'm not going to start doing that. With him and a lot of these Laker players, I'm very curious to see how game 2 is, because it could go as far as like they talked in their practice today about, we got to play better, we got to do this and that. And that's kind of one of those things where it's like, well, duh. But if they do win, and it's like, if Lakers do win, and it's more competitive than just like a close win, then you start to reevaluate, like, was game 1 kind of, or if the Wolves come out and win game 2, it's like, well, now what? Now where do they go? Like, it's a bit. Let me get your theory on this. My point is that the even number games are like actually sneakily like the better games compared to the odd numbered games. And I especially feel this if you kind of set game 7 aside as its own thing. Because to me, like, game 1, 3, and 5, most likely, like, the series is tied. And so people are like, well, this is the big game. And so my point is, like, games 2, 4, 6 are, like, to me, the big ones. Like, yeah, the Wolves in game 1, well, if the Lakers just win game 2, like, the swings to me in game 2, like, if the Wolves win game 2, it's not over, obviously, but you're in such a driver's seat spot, versus the Lakers win game 2 and it's just like, well, we're back to even, here we go. And game 4s are kind of the same way, where it's like a team has a chance to go up 3-1 here. And then obviously game 6 is an elimination game for someone. So
yeah, I could see that, and I get your point where you're coming from. I think the first thing I think of in that, I'm sure there's numbers to back this up, but it's kind of like, if any of you listeners watch tennis at all, it's kind of like a deuce type situation where you're at advantage, right? Where it's like, if you win that second point, it's kind of winning by 2 kind of thing, where it's like, if you go up 2 or you go up 3-1, like that, that might be it, and there's a reason why they say, it's so hard for teams to come back from, 3-1 deficits and things like that. And so I definitely do think, yeah, there's some truth to that, and we'll see a lot. Yeah, I mean, game 2 is kind of like all right, is this series cooked? Are the Lakers cooked, or is it going to be, a back and forth series? So yeah, that's a good observation to make.
Yeah. So game 2, everything on the line, but let's head back to game 1 for a moment. We'll go into Howl or Foul. Topic number 1, it was just a hot shooting game for the Wolves in game 1. Leo, Howl or Foul?
I am saying foul for this one. Now, I totally understand. You look at the numbers. Wolves shot 21 of 42 from 3. That's a blistering exactly perfect 50% from the field. But even when you look at the regular season, the Wolves made the 5th most 3-pointers per game. The Wolves made the 4th best clip of threes in the league as well too. So this is not a team that was like a bottom 20 team or bottom half of the league team that's just all of a sudden making their shots. I mean, this is a team that shoots a lot of threes and we make a lot of threes. During the regular season, I would also say that the Wolves shot 20.2 3-pointers a game that were considered wide open. In this game against Lakers game 1, they shot 27 threes that were considered wide open on Saturday. Now, again, I know tracking numbers could be a little bit messy sometimes where truly 6 feet or more considered wide open, were they actually 6 feet or more open? I don't know. But you look at the numbers, I mean, they weren't taking poor shots. They weren't shooting shots that were like ant, ISO, step back, pull up three. I mean, did he hit a single step back three in that entire game? I think most of his were pull up, off the catch, reset, in transition, that type of thing, right? So I think, that's obviously a good night shooting the ball, no matter, what you want to say about, oh, well, they're good shooting, three-point shooting team again. I don't think that they will hit 21 threes again. I mean, that was a franchise record three-pointers made for the Wolves. So that's great. But you also think about this, the last thing I'll throw about, like, why I think that it wasn't just a hot shooting game for the Wolves. Two of the most consistent three-point shooters on the team are Dante DiVincenzo and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. These are like 40% plus like three-point shooters. And they combined to go 2 for 11 in that game as well, too. I mean, Dante hit that bomb at the end of the half, and then Nah hit one as well too that it's kind of forgot about. But I mean, if those guys are shooting their averages as well too, then I mean that's going to balance out the Jaden going 3 for 3. That's going to balance out Nas going nuclear 4 for 4 in one quarter. I mean that's going to balance out a little bit. So yeah, they won't hit 21 threes again, I think, moving forward. But I don't think that it was just a hot shooting game for the Wolves at all. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I agree. Saying it was if Laker fans, and certainly like the Lakers, if they're just going, well, just a hot shooting game, we'll get it. We'll run back to the same game plan and it'll change. That's, to me, that'd be a very poor way of looking at this. If the Wolves get their diet of shots the entire series, and the Lakers get their diet of shots from game 1 the entire series, the Wolves will win every single game. Synergy backs that up, and again, they won't. Like, the Lakers will play better almost certainly. Synergy backs this up. Synergy has good tracking numbers, and kind of based on all the factors in the game will tell you like what your average point per shot for every shot is. And the Wolves like outshot their expected shot, and the Lakers kind of shot exactly what you would think. But Synergy still says the Wolves got the better diet of shots in that game. And to me, the biggest thing is like almost every single category of the game, the Wolves won. The Wolves had more second chance points, 23-20. They had more fast break points, 25-6. More points off turnovers, 18-9. More points in the paint. That's the big one. Wolves had 12 more points in the paint. Like, if you're going to tell me it's bad shooting, why are the Wolves, even if you throw in like the Lakers free throw advantage, the Wolves still, like, points and free throws combined, the Wolves still have the advantage. So I, like, personally, I'm just like not here for like it was a good shooting night. It certainly, if you want to say the reason the Wolves won by 20 instead of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, yeah, sure, that was probably due to hot shooting. But like ultimately, like, the Wolves were just getting wide open shot after wide open shot, and so I have a hard time like really like saying like poor shooting or great shooting was the reason they won that game, because like I said, if they keep getting those wide open looks, they're gonna win at least 3 of these next 6 games.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just kind of lazy analysis sometimes. It's like you don't really want to, like, if you're a Laker fan or Laker analyst, and trying to make excuses for them. That's a really really easy thing to point out. Where it's like anyone who is watching that game could see like what kind of shots were the Wolves shooting. I mean, we've belabored that point already. Where it's just like, yeah, I mean, they were playing great, and I think that all starts with Ant and Julius Randle. I mean, they were. I put in my notes when I was watching the game, and they were very clearly trying to move the ball more. And then Finch said as well too at halftime, or Finch said in the presser that at halftime, Ant kind of was very very vocal to the team, talking about what where he wants his teammates and everything like that coming out of the half. Very first play out of the first half, Ant gets into the lane. It looks like he has a layup, and Jackson Hayes has to kind of rotate over real quick. Instead of taking that open layup or open floater, he passes it to Jaden McDaniels, who's wide open left corner three, and he just cashes that one in. And so that's a prime example of like that's what the Wolves' game plan was, and their stars were also following that game plan as well too. Julius Randle was not trying to back down LeBron James for like 8 seconds. Ant wasn't trying to play one on one the whole game. I mean, he's always going to have a couple one on one possessions, but for the most part, he was following the game plan. And so I think that is what happened. That they executed better than the Lakers.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Ant's game was particularly, it's not sensational, but like he didn't, like you said, he didn't go hero ball. He bought into like the game plan and did exactly what the Wolves needed. There will likely, almost certainly, be games, if not this series, but certainly in a hopeful second, third round playoff series, that they need Ant to just go nuclear scoring. That likely will happen. And Ant's the biggest thing that Ant will need to do is mentally and on the court determine like which game is this. And I thought he did a great job determining like, and he got his own shot, but like I don't think he had a 3-pointer until like midway through the third quarter.
Right.
Yeah, I just thought he did a great job kind of dissecting what the Wolves needed from him, and yeah.
Yeah, the one thing I do want to add about Ant before we move on is that there was a lot of people that made or kind of took note of a comment that Ant made, and this was way earlier in the season too, or like months earlier. It wasn't people thought that he said this heading into the Lakers series, but it was before this where he said that how's he handling these double teams because they're gonna be waiting for him, and how's he adjusting to this aggressive defensive game plan on him. He said that he's been watching more film of other players and how they handle it, including Luka Doncic, right? And so when you look at his stat line at the end of the day, you just look at the raw box score number, like the easy box score numbers. I mean, he had 22 points, he had 8 rebounds, and 9 assists. Like he was just short of a triple double. I think that goes a little bit overlooked. So if you just tell me with the blindfold on one player scored 22 points, scored grabbed 8 rebounds and dished out 9 assists, and the other player scored 37 points and had 8 rebounds and 1 assist. He said one of them's Luka, one of them's Ant. Like
Mhm.
it would be a complete flip flop. You would have thought that obviously Ant just kind of volume scored his way up there, and meanwhile Luka it's almost got triple double, but it wasn't. That it was quite the opposite. So I thought that was kind of telling of the type of game that Ant had.
Yeah, just the second time in Luka's career that he's only had one assist. Game one of the last year's finals was the other one, and that was a particularly bad game for Doncic. But that leads us perfectly into our next howler foul. The Wolves did a good job guarding Luka Doncic. I'm going to go Howl. I don't. He had 37 points, but every single other Lakers player basically wasn't able to find their offense in that game. I'm not blaming Luka for that necessarily, but I thought Jaden did as well as you can expect. Like we said, he only had one assist. There was a couple times with Rudy. The one thing I think he's just got to be okay with is Luka hitting. If they're gonna switch, or if they're gonna, they weren't like auto giving up the Rudy switch, but they were okay with it in certain situations. And like to me, what you can't do is let Luka like get by you. And certainly if he does get by you, you can't like be honest. If you're Rudy, you can't be on his hip, and he's just gonna get those fouls. To me, you just kind of gotta not let him get to a step back, but ultimately, if you're Rudy, that's got to be the shot that you're gonna have to give up, and it's going to be a thing. It's going to be loud. He's gonna hit one of those, and it's gonna be loud, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, remember the last season?" But ultimately, I think Rudy has come to the realization that, and probably did long ago, like it doesn't matter what people think. It doesn't matter what highlights get clipped. I'm going to do what we need to win. And that's going to be letting Luka kind of be a jump shooter more than the driver and a disher. One thing I did like that they do Jaden did a much better job of, was when Rudy did get switched, like Jaden would do, like, if he found an opportunity to like switch back onto Luka, if there was an opportunity, and kind of like, if they try to do that in the Dallas series, that would just be an easy lob to one of those big guys. And the Lakers just don't have that, especially as like when the Lakers play small, they don't even have like Hayes or Vanderbilt out there, and it's like Rui would be the one that throwing lobs, and obviously like he's an athletic guy, but like that is not the difference in those centers in Dallas. So I think Jaden did a fantastic job, even despite Luka scoring 37. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm a howl for this as well too. Now, some of the things I want to tap into that you mentioned. So, I mean, the Wolves, as you said, guarded Luka similar to their game plans against Jokic, where it's like, okay, we'll make you score, and you saw that kind of take effect on Luka. I mean, I guess you could shout out Nico Harrison on this one, I guess, but I mean, like Luka looked tired at the end. He looked tired, and I remember he had a couple turnovers late in the third and in the fourth quarter as well too, where he just kind of dribbled it off his own leg and it just went the other way as an easy Wolves fast break opportunity that they scored on. And he just looked like, all right, well, what else am I supposed to be doing? Like, I'm trying to drag this team to victory here. And it's funny. I do want to make one more point before I talk about the defense on Luka. Is about people talk about, oh yeah, the Lakers teammates just didn't come out. They didn't provide any help for Luka. Like they all just didn't show up. Where it's like, oh yeah, Rui had a bad game. I mean, Rui started the game 3 for 3 from 3. You know, oh, Austin Reeves had a terrible game. Austin Reeves scored 11 points in the span of 4 minutes to end the third quarter. And that was the only reason the Lakers even had a heartbeat to even get within 12 again, you know, in the fourth quarter, because Austin Reeves was playing ISO basketball. And he hit a couple of threes, and yeah, they're not efficient threes, but I mean, he still scored and dragged them back into the game to even have a shot in the fourth quarter. So you can't have it both ways where you're saying, oh, well, Luka had to drag them, but then be like, oh, well, the Lakers still almost won. It's like, well, they almost came back and got into the game because his teammates kind of helped out. So anyways, all that to say, yeah, I mean, Jaden spoke post game in the presser about, you know, drawing a line that he can't just live on Luka's hip the whole time, and that at some point he has to draw a line and make Luka play behind it. And it's going to be a little, you know, 14-foot mid ranger that he's kind of, you know, hunkering backwards on. Then yeah, go ahead and shoot those tough leading mid rangers all you want, because that's taking a toll on him physically. And, you know, if that means the rest of the team isn't going to get involved, then that's great. I mean, try to avoid Luka hitting threes like he got off in that first quarter. You try to avoid putting him at the free throw line, which he's, you know, speaking of free throws, I mean, in the first half, Luka shot 8 free throw attempts. In the second half, he shot 1 free throw, and that free throw was off a technical foul. So it wasn't even like he drew a foul on that. So they did a great job adjusting, I think. So yeah, Luka got off, yeah, in that first half, and yes, he did score 37. You could say, yeah, he scored once on Rudy Gobert, and he laughed at him, and everyone's like, you know that you're gonna see these edits, you know, on TikTok about like, oh yeah, Luka's clowning Rudy again, you know, type of thing. Like you said, you know, it's good for the memes, but really at the end of the day, the Wolves did a great game plan on him, and I think they executed it beautifully.
Yeah, I thought it was an impressive defensive showing. Lakers only scored 17 points in the fourth quarter when they were kind of starting to come back. Obviously, I think a lot of us had like our classic Wolves anxiety about toward the end of that game, but ultimately I don't think it got within 12. So that I was impressed with kind of the Wolves' mental makeup of not, because I felt when the Lakers were coming back, obviously the Wolves weren't playing great in that stretch. It was, to me, more like the Lakers finally playing well for the first time in the game versus the Wolves kind of collapsing. So it was good to see them kind of the first real test in the series to fight back when the Lakers were coming back. All right, topic 3, Howler foul. Like we mentioned, Jackson Hayes didn't play. Wolves or Lakers were playing small. There should be worry about Rudy Gobert against the Lakers when they go small. Howler foul, Leo.
I'm saying foul for this one. I don't think anything will change about like the pre-series prediction about Rudy having a presence in this game. Sure, he only played 20 some minutes, and sure, yeah, you can say he only scored 2 points and only grabbed 6 rebounds. I mean, that's stuff that people like Shaq are going to look at and be like, oh yeah, Rudy Gobert, defensive player of the year, and you're only going to play 24 points or 24 minutes, and you're only going to score 2 points. Like, you know, you shouldn't be getting your contract. I mean, that's like the lazy box score analysis that casuals love to talk about. But I mean, he's still going to have that same imprint on the game. I mean, yes, I know he had that one big block on LeBron, but I'm not saying that was all he was doing out there. But I think that he's still going to go ahead and he's going to force his presence and make his presence be felt when he's out there. So I expect him to continue to have a lot more attempts in game 2 moving forward, because I think Redick's going to adjust his perimeter scheme, seeing that you can't just collapse heavy, just sitting in the gap the whole time, because if the Wolves are shooting, then they do have to make some adjustments. If they make those adjustments, I'm expecting Finch to tell his players that, hey, look, Rudy's going to be open for those lob attempts, and you have to get him involved. That's part of the meat on the bone that I think Finch was talking about in the post game, where he's like, hey, we still, yeah, like, you know, we played well, but we still have a lot of meat on the bones. That's his exact words, you know, to play better on the offensive end as well, too. So I think Rudy having a bigger presence moving forward, I think will be there. So that's why I'm not worried about it. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, what happened in game 1 doesn't really change my pre-series analysis for Gobert. The small lineups are the best way to attack Gobert, but I continue to feel like if people are saying like he's going to get played off the court, I just continue to think that's just not very smart. To me, I would say Rudy Gobert had a pretty brutal first half, but it wasn't because of the small lineup. I thought it was because he gave up a couple offensive rebounds to Jackson Hayes and then fouled Luka a couple times, and like that's just going to be like Luka's not going anywhere. There's no lineup that the Lakers are playing without Luka. And I thought he did better in the second half. Obviously, He didn't score very much, but I didn't feel like he was hindering the offense at all. And obviously the numbers don't say that. And I to me, like, if the Wolves were to like continue, I thought the foul trouble was, and Nas just being a flamethrower were the biggest reasons for Gobert's low minutes. If in the non-Gobert minutes, like, the Lakers should be trying to drive the paint. That's been, like, when Nas is playing center, that's been how teams have found success with Rudy on the bench. So to me, having Rudy out there is the biggest thing, because they found ways to not make him an offensive liability. One thing I thought Lakers weren't really doubling Ant. They were freely switching and like playing in the gaps. Obviously, they were guarding him with more people, but like there wasn't like the hard doubles like that he's seen all year. And so like one thing pre-series I thought was like the Rudy short roll game would be big, and that if they're not going to double Ant, obviously that changes that, and Rudy's going to be more in the dunker spot, which I think like the 2 points he did have came off of that action with Randall getting in the paint and throwing the lob. But yeah, I think that Rudy's going to have a much better series after this first game. There's always going to be issues with Luka, but I don't see a lineup that the Lakers are going to find great success kind of against Rudy.
Yeah, there's a reason why the Wolves got all those wide open threes. And a lot of them was, I mean, I think the first step you see out there is that the Wolves drove into the paint and they beat the first point of attack as defender and they collapsed the defense, right? So that's like the very like initial layer of it. The second layer of it is that, okay, so who are the Lakers rotating to? And you can see on a lot of these plays, they're trying to cover up Rudy Gobert in the paint because they know that they're playing small, right? Jackson Hayes wasn't out there; they were playing small, so they knew that, okay, well, LeBron's got to get on Rudy. Dorian Finney-Smith, someone's got to go box out Rudy or cover him on the lob, and that's why they're so wide open. There's one play in particular in the third quarter, midway through in the Wolves' like huge run, where Austin Reeves, I don't know, remember, he throws this like terrible pass over the corner to Luka. Luka has to like go jumping out of bounds to try and save the ball. He falls down, but he throws the ball, it goes straight to Jaden. It's 5 minutes and 10 seconds left. Jaden goes all the way and he goes attacks in transition right into the paint. And there are 4 Laker players with a foot in the paint. And the only other player in the paint is Rudy Gobert. And you see LeBron go off Ant from the right corner. Ant, go ahead, screams out to the right corner. LeBron leaves Ant to go cover Rudy. And that's why Ant was wide open to hit an open corner 3 to put the Wolves up by, was it 19 points? Or no, it was by 25 points at that point. So again, go back and see that play, and you'll immediately see the impact that Rudy did have on the game. And so I think the Lakers are going to try to adjust that. Like, we need to, spread out a little bit more. We can't just all collapse 5 guys into the paint there. So, Rudy did have his impact, and like you said, I agree with you. He will continue to have a bigger impact, I think, moving forward.
Yeah, and that the whole Rudy thing goes into our next or last holler foul, and to me, I'm just very curious what strings the Lakers pull, because obviously they'll talk about trying to play better, but I do think even if they do play better, the Wolves found a lot of things that will work. And so the holler foul I wrote here, the Lakers should lead into playing either Vanderbilt or Hayes. Really more about like Vanderbilt seems like kind of the obvious point there. I'm going to go foul because to me, just both of those guys make it so much easier on Rudy to just stick him in the paint. Vando especially. I just think his offensive game just makes it very easy for Rudy to just stick in the paint and just completely ignore Vando. But that if they're going to play small, I just don't know where they're getting the defense from, because the defensive trio of LeBron, Luka, and Reeves is just like not good enough. And Hachimura and Finney-Smith are good defenders, but they're not like all defensive defenders. So I just don't know. It kind of feels like one of these situations the Wolves have had a lot where their small lineup isn't going to provide enough defense, and their big lineup's not going to provide enough offense with Rudy sticking to the paint. So I'm saying foul on leaning into those guys, but I also just don't know what lineup they should be going with. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm in the same vein as you, but the reason I'm going with a howl for this is because I feel like JJ Redick, who is this quote unquote master tactician here, is that he has no other choice but to try and do that, because clearly what they were doing, I mean, he said, I think it was a third quarter interview or whatever quarter interview in between, where he was like, oh, there's nothing wrong with our scheme. We just have to play harder, kind of thing. It's like, he's very grumpy about it for good reason. Where it's like, okay, well, there's nothing wrong with your scheme. You play harder, then like you're gonna get a lot more of what you're seeing right now or from game one. And so I think they have no choice but to try and lean in to make some adjustment because I don't think there's any way they could keep running out that same rotation that they were doing, the same scheme they were doing. I think that's going to come out better. I mean, you said it earlier, Ryan. You said that if the Lakers are going to keep playing defense the way they are, then you're going to take those threes that the Wolves are shooting, and they're going to make them at a high rate because they're the fourth best 3-point shooting team in the league. So, with that said, I mean, I think with Jackson Hayes, again, hate the guy, but as a human, a basketball player, don't really mind him much. But Luka loves to have a vertical threat, and Jackson Hayes is literally the only guy, unless you're going to break open your emergency Christian Coloco here, to play a couple minutes, which I highly doubt. And so Jackson Hayes does present that vertical threat. And so, if that's the case, then maybe Luka could get going a little bit more, right? Something he's more familiar with. But meanwhile, for Vando, we talked about it a couple times already. Vando did muck up the game in the way that we know Vando loves to do. And the Wolves have to play a little bit smarter. They have to not buy into it. I mean, he wasn't the reason Finch got a technical, but he was the reason that Julius Randle got a technical. And, Julius can be kind of a easy to rattle guy. He's a guy that you push him once, he's going to want to push you back kind of dude. And so, him and Vando did that classic big guys with their arms tangled up. I call that the Kevin Garnett, where he hooks the guy's arms, he lifts both of his arms up. He's like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. And so that said, I think Vanderbilt does provide that spark that a lot of their passive players don't bring. Like you don't see a Gabe Vincent, diving, for a loose ball. You don't see an Austin Reeves like really like mucking it up on the defensive boards. Like you don't see that in there. You don't see him trying to like go guard full court. That's stuff that Mando does, and it really did kind of give them that final little spark that they did get. Again, I do agree with you. I don't think the results will be great if they lean heavily into them, but I think that they have to at least try because what they were doing was just not working.
Yeah, my biggest thing for game 2 is like what you mentioned with Redick saying like they just need to play harder. Is that actually what their adjustment is going to be for game 2, or are they gonna like change things up? Because to me, I would probably look into changing up, like not switching so much. I thought they were giving the switch on Luka to Ant way too easily, and Reeves on Ant too. I would look into doubling him. I don't know if they have the defensive personnel to play like the fly around, like on the back end of the like playing 4-on-3 on the back end. But if what he's saying is true, they're just gonna run back the same thing over again and just try to play harder. And to me, I don't see that as a winning strategy long term in this series. But I guess I could be wrong. Before we head into our 2 words, I just want to kind of think about big picture. Where do you see this? I know you picked the Wolves. I did pick the Lakers, but I kind of said like in the sense of like 52 is greater than 48. I thought it was a very toss-up series, and ultimately the clutch time stuff for the Wolves versus like guys like Luka and LeBron was like my main worry. And at least for one game, I do think that's still a thing. Like I think the Wolves should be trying desperately to avoid clutch time games. And they did that in this first one, so that's a big thing. I think a lot of like the things I weirdly like a lot of the if you just told me the Wolves are going to blow out the Lakers, this is not the way I would have seen that coming. I thought it would have been by like Ant and Rudy being the big guys. And so I kind of think that is still there. I do expect the Lakers to come back punching, but the Wolves have an opportunity in game 2 to like take extreme control of this series because I mean, you think about obviously the Denver series, they kind of gave that series back. They won the first 2 games on the road, and then the series was tied after the Target Center series. But I would almost point to that as how an example of like how big a 2-0 series lead it was in the sense of the Wolves played 3 disaster games in the middle of a series in a row, and they still had a chance to win that series and ended up winning the series. So it seems like the team kind of agrees with that. Like they're not going to just punt game 2. They're going to obviously, if you told us before the series we'll split the first 2 games, we all have been like, great, sounds good. But I think the team is going to try to put some more daggers in and try to come back home with a 2-0 lead. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I had the Wolves at 5 was what I picked, and obviously I'm sticking with that. But I think there's just so many buttons that the Wolves can push, and I think, as you said, like there are 2 sides to every coin, Ryan, and there's also 6 faces to every dice. And the Wolves, they roll that dice, and they rolled a 6 on game 1. Now I don't know what they're gonna roll for game 2. We know the Wolves more better than pretty much everyone else that covers the Wolves. Is that they can be prone to having just absolute stinkers of a game. They could theoretically lose by 20, 30 points in game 2. Like, who knows with this team sometimes, right? Every time we think that we have the Wolves figured out, they do the exact opposite. So, but again, there's just some things that, again, like the Lakers just, if the Wolves are like all sixes and all ones, again, I go back to this whole dice analogy. I think it's kind of interesting. The Lakers are like all threes and like all fours, maybe, or maybe just like a dice with all threes, where it's like they're so like their potential to blow have a huge game is just not that high, like just because of their options currently on the team. And like you said, this is not going to be the best iteration of the Lakers moving forward. It's probably the worst team that Luka's going to have in LA. But in the meantime, I mean, that's what he got. The last thing I want to throw in here about Austin Reeves, you mentioned him earlier. Nekias Duncan, he covers it for Dunker Spa, also on I think JJ Redick's podcast network. But he said after the game, he said, "We'll see if this updates." He tweeted this out. "We'll see if this updates again in the morning." But Second Spectrum tracking had the Wolves scoring 19 points on 10 drives defended by Austin Reeves tonight. And so, like, the Wolves are clearly noticing these trends, and they're attacking these huge mismatches. And again, like, I wonder what the Second Spectrum numbers look like for Luka Doncic defending drives, because again, I think oftentimes we bury like, oh well, how bad does Rudy look like in isolation on defense against a perimeter player? But like, how bad does Luka look in isolation, or how bad does Luka look on help? I mean, how many of the threes are you seeing Luka just like lazily close out, like, a 3-point shot? So yeah, there's just so many holes to pick at.
Yep, I would, and I think you agree. I would expect a lot of that to change, especially like the hustle and effort stuff. We'll see if that's enough for the Lakers, or if that, I mean, obviously that game one is about as good as it went. But like, if you want to play devil's advocate, there's a lot of NBA series where the result of game one means literally nothing, and it's kind of a mirage. Personally, I don't think that that's what this was, but probably got to hold at least that open as a possibility. But yeah, I would probably adjust. I mean, it's easy to say now. Obviously, I would probably say the Lakers are more likely to win than not, but think we're still in for a long series. I would still be surprised if it goes short, but if it does, the Wolves get the head start there. But yeah, Leo, your 2 words for this one.
My 2 words are BLA. BLA, because like my fellow KG fans from Boston, my fellow Sacramento Kings fans who really going through it again right now, we must evoke the eternal playoff chant that has fueled righteousness in the sports world, which is beat LA. And I say that with like every freaking piece of like my heart that I can. I wrote this piece for Canada's Hoops last week, right before the series started, about my open letter to the Los Angeles Lakers. And it's funny because when I shared that, I mean, it was something that I was like, look, this is just how I feel about it. But I had some people, at my day job, and just some people on social media that kind of like messaged me on the side. It's like, dude, like, you wrote exactly how I felt about the Lakers, like, in such a great way. And I'm not, again, humble brag here, but at the same time, I think I say that because I think there's a lot of other people that are really pulling for the Wolves to beat LA, especially just given how much they took advantage of, the Dallas Mavericks, and the whole Luka Doncic, thing. And obviously, LeBron being the headlines 24/7. We're just like, come on, Wolves, like, pull this one out for the rest of us. I had Clipper fans, I had Celtics fans, I had I had Suns fans, I had people who were like, dude, come on, beat LA. We need you guys to beat LA. So those are my 2 words.
Yeah, I recommend your piece that you wrote to anyone, especially Minnesotans looking at the LA perspective or the California's perspective from you. I did text you that playing Kings game, just Kings lol. That was they are just, to lose to that Mavericks team, the husk of the Mavericks team, is just in that fashion is oof. So yeah, one more time, I'll call them your Sacramento Kings. Brutal stuff out there in Cali for them. But yeah, my 2 words, going simple, Wolves back. That last, or Saturday night was like the first time this Wolves team reminded me of last year's team. Just like the dominant defense, the knocking down shots, like the swagger, for a lack of a better word. It was all back in spades. Really for the first time since the Denver series. Just incredibly fun. There's really nothing like it that I've experienced in sports. I said this to my family, like, sports wise, I'm certainly not confident. The Lynx are the only professional sports team that's had success here locally. And even then, I would consider myself a Lynx fan now. But I was certainly closer to during the title runs. I was more of a casual fan. I wasn't even living in Minnesota for most of those. So for the men's sports wise, I have had very little confidence in my sports teams. And this Wolves team, and really last year's Wolves team too, was the first time I've really ever had confidence in a sports team. And it's not to say they can't lose or won't lose or whatever, but like I've never had like this type of sports experience ever. Maybe aside from like there's a couple Vikings teams that had this, and I was 3 for the 98 Vikings, who were extremely good. There was a Brett Favre Vikings teams that was pretty good, and Minneapolis Miracle. I wouldn't even say that's not even a team I was confident in. Obviously that's like a fun memory for that the Diggs catch in that game, but yeah, this Wolves team has been really since they got Ant, but certainly these last couple seasons, it's been as fun of a sports ride. One thing, as barring obviously injury, if the Wolves win one more game, Ant's going to be second in Timberwolves' career playoff games played. He's likely going to be first in that category. He's going to chase down a lot of these Kevin Garnett. The regular season ones will take a bit more time, but the playoff records Ant's going to come for pretty quick here. Yeah, it's just, this is the best era of Wolves basketball, and it's not really even close. Obviously, like, if they win this, it'd be the first time they've won playoff series in back-to-back years ever. Was it 6 straight playoff appearances? Late 90s and early 2000s, I think it was. I mean, I would expect them to match that and surpass it. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that after your experience out there in Game 1.
Yeah, man. I mean, that was a cathartic experience for me for many reasons. Personally, like I outlined in my piece. But yeah, I mean, this is something I'll never take for granted. I think you and I, we followed the Wolves long enough, and even people who are older than us have been following the Wolves since they were in their inception, '89 and through the '90s. I mean, there's been some really, really dark times, and not only are they dark, but they were long. They were very long and dark times, and so for the Wolves to be able to experience this much success and to be in the headlines for good things and making good changes, whether it's ownership, whether it's the wins, or whether it's just like the players, the highlights. I mean, this is a time that we've never seen before, and so I really want to make sure we value that while we can, no matter how the series goes. And you said it before. I mean, it felt like the first time that the Wolves, felt back since last season. And yeah, this team may be lacking in the defensive execution that they did last year. They may be lacking some of the chemistry that Cat and Ant have built over the years. But I think they're more confident team in a sense that, I mean, this is, like you said, every bite of the apple that Ant is getting right now is so important right now, no matter what happens this playoff run. And I think he's only getting more confident. He's becoming smarter and he's getting better. And so you saw at the end of the game. I mean, I asked the questions to Reid and to Anthony Edwards about what message do you have for Wolves fans that are doubting the Wolves since everyone picked the Lakers, and they both had very similar messages without communicating to each other. It's like, we have no message, just watch us play. Like, hey, like, we weren't supposed to win. We're not supposed to be here. And like, they're doing that seriously. Like, they're doing that because like they're locked in. And I'm bringing that same attitude to my workplace, where I'm surrounded by Laker fans right now, where they're like, "Oh man, Leo, what you got to say?" I was like, "I got nothing to say right now. Like, the series is far from over. I'm not talking crap until the series is over." So like, yeah, it was a great game 1. I had fun, but let's move on. Game 1's over now. And so, I think the fans and the community is probably gonna, rally together and also take that, like, all right, like, well, we're here now. We're here, and let's keep it going, and let's not get too high, and let's not get too low, in the eternal words of Ricky Rubio.
Yeah, it's kind of why even at like the whatever the nadir of this season end up was during the regular season, like, I've always tried to enjoy what it is, enjoy it for what it is, and especially like now, like, obviously, like, the Reid contract conversation is pertinent, and like the Kevin Durant of it all, we'll see if that ends up being real or whatever. Like, I've always kind of been like, let's talk about that in the off season when it occurs, because like, it's just like, we're not a tanking team. We're not trying to like get D'Lo on a helicopter or whatever that was a few years ago. Like, the Wolves are like a perennial playoff team. I put it together. I missed it. I think it was 4 other teams have made the playoffs the last 4 years in a row. Maybe, and I think it was 4. I think the Heat made the playoffs, and like they made it 4. But it's like, and basically every other one of those teams had made the finals when most of them had won it, including the Heat. Like, the Wolves and they're not going anywhere with Ant. So like, just try to enjoy it. Hopefully they can they can win this series and play another one. Didn't have time to like go over the other playoff series, but like this is projecting too far forward. Looking at the Warriors and Rockets, I don't know. Just a game one for them. Those teams look beatable. I don't know if we want to talk about it. I guess if we want to do that, then the OKC looked about as dominant as you can look in a playoff game. Yeah. So, it's a fun one. Looking forward to being out there for game 2 in LA. Leo, anything else?
No, man. This is a good time. Beat LA. Wolves are back. Let's enjoy it. We get an extra day. Everyone's complaining about the 2 days off that the Lakers are having off between the series, where it's like, oh man, like LeBron gets to rest. It's like, nah, man, I'm gonna gloat about I'm gonna smile about the Timberwolves for 2 straight days and listen to the national media and podcasts talk about, are the Lakers in trouble for 2 days? I'm gonna enjoy that right now. So, when this is out Tuesday morning, hopefully I'll still have a smile on my face before we lock in for game 2.
Yeah, awesome. Well, for this pod, I'll try to likely do a solo pod. Probably won't get home from the arena until like 10, 11 o'clock LA time. So that's whatever the heck Central time. So not going to try to, unless I can find someone around the arena to drag to my hotel and do a podcast. I'll probably end up doing a quick solo pod depending on the outcome of the game. And we'll go from there down the stretch of this week. Again, lots of days off. Wolves' next game is until Friday after game 2. So, with that, thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you later in the week.
Thanks all. Get home. Drive safe.
Go Wolves.
Ayoo!